Before we jump in, a gentle reminder that the stories shared on this podcast include discussions about chronic illness, medical experiences, mental health, and other sensitive topics. While we share our own experiences and perspectives, this podcast should not be considered medical advice. If you have concerns about your health, please speak with a qualified healthcare professional. We believe these conversations matter, but we also know that they can be a lot. Please take what you need, leave what you don't, but most importantly, take care of yourself while listening. Welcome to Outside the Waiting Room. I'm Harriet.
And I'm Olivia. And today I feel honoured to give my dear friend Harriet the space and the time to tell us her story. But before we begin, what is one thing you want a newly diagnosed patient to hear?
I've thought about this a lot. There's so many things I wish a newly diagnosed patient could hear. But the most important would be in a time where information is available at all hours of the day and the night, it can be easy to find yourself falling down a rabbit hole on the internet. I promise more often than not, that rabbit hole will only leave you feeling more worried, more overwhelmed, with a lot more uncertainty. The best thing that you can do is to learn to listen to your own body. You are the person who knows it best. Take the time to understand what it's trying to tell you. Tell your doctors everything, ask questions, get a second opinion if you need one, but don't let that be the opinion of someone on the internet. The internet can be a really wonderful place to find support, community, and people who understand what you're going through, but it should never replace that of medical advice specific to your situation, because everyone's journey, as we know, is different. And the most important thing you can do is advocate for your own journey.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially in today's society. Social media is everywhere. It's in our faces constantly. I love that advice of really taking that time to listen to your body and trusting your own instincts around that. So, Harriet, let's start at the beginning because your story does start at a very beginning. Can you please take us back to the time around when you were diagnosed or even pre-diagnosis and what that looked like?
Yeah, so similar to you, I was diagnosed really, really young. A lot of what happened is from information that my parents and doctors have told me over time. I guess quite quickly things changed. I was not much older than 6 months when I started to come out in a huge amount of bruises, and I didn't really know what was going on. They diagnosed me with, it used to be called idiopathic thrombocytopenia. God, I brutalized that. Purpura, which I'm also probably not pronouncing right. But they've now changed the idiopathic to immune, ITP, which is an autoimmune condition where your body starts destroying its own platelets.
Okay.
So platelets help the blood clot. If it can't do that, then your bruises become more obvious, and it doesn't take much to bruise. And it can be quite dangerous if you get an internal bleed. It's really hard for the body to recover. So to treat that at the time was, and probably still is, getting platelet transfusions every week. But my platelet counts just never got to what they should be. Then before I turned 1, they removed my spleen. From what I understand now, that's like worst case treatment.
Oh, okay.
But this was 35 years ago. So things were different. So they removed my spleen. After that, it was meant to be all good. It didn't become all good. Early signs would get me up in the morning. She'd feed me breakfast, and then within an hour and a half, I was so exhausted I would need to be put back to bed. And it wasn't a little bit of a snooze; it was full blown. Just
You were so fatigued. Yeah.
yeah, couldn't stay awake. Then really similar to your earliest symptoms, Olivia, which was I couldn't put my feet on the ground, so I stopped walking and went back to crawling. The exhaustion continued, so my parents took me to the doctors and then started it showing that classic lupus rash or butterfly rash. They diagnosed me through blood tests and also with skin biopsy.
Okay, yes.
So I took a little bit out of my ear, just like grim. That was when I was diagnosed with lupus. I was about 18 months to 2 years old. So treatment path started as yours, Livy, which was prednisone to dampen down the immune system. Yeah, it was how it first came about. I know mum and dad didn't know anything about
Mm.
this chronic illness. They'd never heard of it before. A lot of doctors had never heard of it before,
No, and not young kids.
especially babies. As you say, they might have heard of it for
Mm.
people who are older, but never, literally babies. For them, it was a massive shock. They'd had two healthy boys. It was hard for them to get their head around what was going on. Found support through your parents would have been one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So for people who don't know, Olivia and I had the same rheumatologist, which is someone who specialises in inflammation of the joints. She put our parents in contact because we were both two little girls with
Mm.
lupus, which was uncommon. There was a lot of support, but yeah, understanding of outcomes wasn't great.
Even within that as well, our illnesses still looked very different. We had the same diagnosis, but we presented quite differently. Yeah.
Yeah, and it became
More apparent within it. Yeah.
yeah, as we grew up, things drastically changed for both of us in how our lupus took hold. Up until I was about 5, it was a lot of in and out of hospital, getting sick all the time with anything because my immune
Yes.
system didn't know how to cope. Added factor was not having a spleen. So your spleen
Yes.
is quite a key part of your immune system. Not having that and an autoimmune disease.
So were you also on steroids during that time?
Yeah, I believe so. When I look at some photos of me,
Yes.
the
Well,
moon
you can
face was there.
just tell, can't you? I often get questions with my daughter like, "Oh, does she look like you?" I have to say, she looks like me up until I started steroids.
You're like kind of looking in the mirror as to what you would have looked like.
Yeah, and that's yep, that's what she's like, this very visual reminder of, like, is that what I may have looked like? Yeah.
Exactly. I was on them off and on where things really got different between your lupus and my lupus was
Yeah.
yours took a hold of your joints.
Mhm.
Mine really took a hold of my insides.
So as we explained last week, for anyone that's not sure, lupus can affect any part of the body. Nowhere's safe in that sense. That's why patients will often present so differently because the whole body can be affected. So yours presented a lot inside. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, like what that looked like?
Yes, the biggest time that I had in hospital, I was 5. I was in hospital for a few months. Lupus just ran wild, primarily my bowels, and everything was inflamed. Just didn't know how to get it under control, so didn't know what course to take other than just treat what they have in front of them.
Mhm.
I was being fed through a tube, multiple surgeries to investigate. So I had 4 or 5 all up, looking to see if they could, I don't know, figure
Figure
out
what
what
it
was
was.
going on.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really have any memories from that time.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably 2 that I remember. One that I was in a ICU bed. There was this poster of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Was it a movie? It must
The
have been
movie.
made
Yeah, definitely.
behind me. I can see it vividly. I remember feeling energy of everyone being really sad when I was in that ICU. I didn't really think that I was going to be leaving that ICU, which is of the energy that I felt. But I mean, I made it. The next memory I have is uh, my first food.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a beautiful nurse. She made me classic white bread, absolutely lathered in margarine or butter. This is controversial for New Zealand with Vegemite on it, not Marmite. And I just remember it because I hadn't eaten in months, and even now it's still my comfort food.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
So those were my 2 main memories of that time. Eventually they got the lupus under control. I was discharged from hospital, went home on steroids. Surprise, we love steroids. That was the big first lupus moment for me.
Had you started school at that time or not quite yet? What was that looking like for you?
Yeah, I had started school. It was my first year of school. I guess quite lucky that um my parents have a really strong group of friends they met through school, and their kids are all really important people in my life still and at the time. And so going through this really awful time, they had a group of friends that were surrounding them and helping
And
them
we
through all of it.
and we know how vital that is, don't we?
There was a lot of family support as well, which is so crucial. Now, as I'm older, I'm starting to recognize the importance of that support. I couldn't imagine doing that alone. I know people do, and
Mm.
that's really, yeah, that's hard. You always need people to lean on.
So after that hospital stay, were the doctors any closer to figuring out what was going on lupus-wise, or they got you to a level and then you can be discharged and see how you go?
It was got me to a point then being closely monitored. That's where my in and out of flares kicked off. It was managed with steroids and different immune suppressant drugs. In that time, I missed huge amounts of school just for being in and out of hospital, missing school for hospital appointments, blood tests, follow ups, scans. It just, at the time, it was really relentless. I always had to be so mindful of what the time was because mum was going to be picking me up at X
Yes.
time. I tried really, really hard to fit in. I didn't quite realize I was a bit different
Mm.
from everyone else. I was too young at that point to, yeah,
Definitely, definitely.
around the age of 7, I started to turn yellow and my liver wasn't functioning the way it should be. That yellow tinge was jaundice, which
Mhm.
is common when you've got an issue with your liver. They ended up diagnosing me with autoimmune hepatitis, so due to lupus.
So they did make the link it was because of lupus?
Most likely, that was the conclusion that they came to at the time. It caused so much damage to my liver that I was told that I had cirrhosis. Parts of your liver effectively die due to disease. I was 8, so I was told that meant I couldn't drink and I would never be allowed to drink at 8. I didn't really care. But the liver diagnosis was the pivotal point in my childhood where I went, I
Yeah.
am really different.
Mhm.
I was put on my highest dose of prednisone. When I came back to school, I had put on a huge amount of weight. My face was moon face. I was still a tinge of yellow. Some kids that I'd known since I was 5 that didn't recognize me. That's when I went, oh, not everyone has
This is a
this.
lot.
And it was my first time where I really hated my body.
And even the double banger of knowing I have to take this medication to try and make me feel better, but it's also going to make me feel a lot worse at the same time. That's just such a hard thing to try and hold on to. Yeah.
And it's confusing. This was the first time where I realized I was different. The kids around me didn't care. To them, I was still Harriet, but it was the looks I got from adults that really sit in my mind. That look of sympathy, but
Mhm.
also belief that that's not their kid. That was really hard. And after my diagnoses of cirrhosis, I was put on the list for a liver transplant after being on a huge dose of steroids. Blood tests started to show that impacts on my liver were starting to decrease. Well, I came off the prednisone. I also came off the list for a liver transplant. I just steadied itself. I was on a medication called azathioprine, which was to really just dampen that immune response in my liver to make sure it didn't
Flare back up. Yeah.
at 10 when I started to get peritonitis. Peritonitis is inflammation of the peritoneum. It was getting inflamed all the time. That was a lupus response. The pain was so significant. Couldn't even jump. It comes to mind because that was how they tested it. Well, if you jump, are you in pain? The answer is yes, I am in pain. The way they treated that was with an immune suppressant. This time it was cyclophosphamide, which is a chemotherapy drug to dampen down my immune system. That was my younger years. It was constant. My primary school, so incredible. It sounds really weird to say, but they were just so supportive of everything, supportive of my health, supportive of my siblings.
Yeah, so as a real family unit, you guys kind of felt held and supported?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. When it came to choosing what high school to go to, I was really sick of I was really sick of being sick.
Yeah.
And made a decision to go to a school that was the bigger school, which meant I wouldn't be with all of the girls that I had gone to primary school with. I wanted to be able to escape everyone knowing. I felt like that was going to be an opportunity to, I guess, start fresh and pretend that I wasn't sick.
Mm.
And boy, was I wrong.
And it was probably for you being able to take some control back because you'd lost so much control over every other decision.
Absolutely. It's a big thing that no one talks about when it comes to chronic health, and especially when you are a child, is that lack of control. When you're a kid and you're always sick and you're always seeing doctors, you're just there. No one explicitly tells you what's going on or what they're going to do. No one gives you a choice. They give your parents a choice, but no one engages you the way that I think they should.
Mhm.
Because even if you aren't actually going to make the choice, it would still be nice to be acknowledged. And it's really easy to assume that the child doesn't know, or as long as they get better, it's fine. But you have no choice in anything. And for me, I tried to control things by controlling things that weren't related to my health. Times it has been a problem more internally than externally, but the control piece is huge. We started college,
Yeah.
and that's where things got really hard. I was fine for the first few years. Same in and out with little things, constantly
Yeah.
trying to keep up, doing the stuff on the weekends with your friends and trying to play sports. The friends that I made knew I had a health condition. I didn't know much about it, and I didn't really talk about it because I didn't want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
The trying to keep up and the change of environment with school, having to go to different classes all the time and carry your books. My joints weren't a problem anymore. The exhaustion of it
Yeah.
was huge. I remember coming home after school so tired. I just wanted to nap. Often I would, or I'd fall asleep on the bus on the way
Mm.
home. I wouldn't do my homework because I didn't have the energy. I knew people had the energy, and it really frustrated me
Yeah.
that I couldn't be like everyone else. When I started going to parties and everyone
Mm.
starts to drink, and this for me was when things got really, really difficult. I had cirrhosis. I'd been told if I drank, I'd die. And
Wow.
so of course I didn't. And I felt, I hate saying this, but like a loser. I know it's so stupid because drinking, it's not cool, especially when you're 15. Back then, it was everything.
And it was probably so in your face that there were these kids who could drink, and then there was you that couldn't for a very serious health reason. Just being reminded that, and socially, it's such a hard age anyway. So frustrating.
Yeah. And at this point, you're going to parties with kids from different schools. So they don't know you.
Yeah, so you've come out of your bubble yet again.
Yeah, and you're not drinking. And
Mm.
so what's wrong with that girl? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
she's a bit weird. Why is she even here if she's not going to drink?
That's
Because
you.
that
Yeah.
was the vibe. And then in my second to last year of school, it was the most sick I had been in a really long time. At this point, I was 16. I had my own life. So I felt I was missing out on a lot of things. The doctors had no idea what was going on. They knew it was lupus, and they had tried so many different medicines. And mum and dad had gone away for a 6-week trip through Europe. Day 3, I got sick.
Why does that always happen?
This was like a first big trip. I was 16, my brothers were older. They
Yeah.
felt we were okay to be left alone. My auntie came down to her really young kids and husband to look after me in hospital. It was really, really bad. I wouldn't let her leave my side because I was so scared. I was so scared. She had to call my parents home because there were some decisions that had to be made that she couldn't make. I think now there's no way my parents would have wanted to stay knowing
No.
I was that sick. I felt really guilty. When that decision was made, I knew something was not good. I remember it was one of the moments that I was by myself. I had a nurse who came in and I said, "Am I going to die?" And she said to me, "We're going to make you as comfortable as possible." I knew what that meant. I've told people that before and they've gone, "Can't believe she said that." I appreciated it. Someone was telling me the truth. I was dying and we couldn't pretend that that wasn't the case.
This is, yeah, but we're going to keep you comfortable.
Yeah.
She was, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So mum and dad came home, had to make a decision on a drug to give me. It was still in trial. It had not been used in New Zealand. It wasn't in New Zealand. It was at the end stage of trial in the States. It had been going really, really well for people with autoimmune problems. Because it was still in trial, it came with a litany of
Wow.
side effects. And number one being death. Mum and dad had to make that decision.
Did they have to make it generally quite quickly as
Yeah.
well? Yeah.
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 It all happened very quickly. That drug was rituximab, which you might have
Mm.
heard about now.
Now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
huge. I don't know how many doses I had. Things started to get better and calm down. All of that happened within a 2-3 week period.
Oh, so that quick. Wow. That's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Even though it was 2-3 weeks, I'd missed a lot. It was my second to last year of school. It was, NCEA level 2, which meant that was your university insurance. I wanted to go to uni and it was a lot to take on. I just pushed through and pretended like nothing happened.
The emotional toll that this took on you, this hospitalization, that would have been so huge.
It just was again another reminder of you're really different. It doesn't matter how much you try and pretend you're not like the other kids. You can't do these things. You could end up in hospital tomorrow. You were fine yesterday, but hey, sick today.
And that's so frightening, that unpredictability. Yeah.
Yeah, and you would have felt that too. That's where that like control comes from. If I do everything this way, and I get to the end of the day and I'm well, then surely if I do it all again tomorrow the same way, I'll be fine. That's how I continue to operate. Okay, well, if I control everything and nothing changes, then that won't happen again. In my last year of school, I got sick. It was standard cold, and colds for us always take a little longer to get over. Left me with this cough, and this cough just never went away. I couldn't hold a conversation at times because I was having these coughing fits, and I just distinctly remember when it started. I just couldn't get on top of it. And that led on to other things.
Yeah, yeah. So once everyone had finished school, what did that look like for you?
I wanted to go to uni. I wanted to, I guess, reinvent myself again. The idea of moving to another city was really daunting. So I stayed in my hometown, went to uni, but I kept getting pneumonia or a chest infection, and it was just non-stop. I was really struggling. I couldn't keep up with my peers, and I was really upset because I just didn't know how to. I just didn't know how to be myself, so I tried to be like everyone else. I was really aware that I had this body, and it didn't work like everyone else's. It was so unpredictable. I couldn't trust it.
Yeah.
Nights out were hard. I wanted to keep up, but I was just so exhausted. I'd come home at stupid hours, then for days be sick. I told myself I don't understand why this is happening, but of course I knew.
Of course, of course. And what, who would?
Yeah, I got a job at part-time. At the end of the first year of uni, I decided not to return. I wanted to do, and what I still want to do was nursing.
Yep, I've heard you talk about this so much as well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nurses are the backbone of hospitals. Like doctors help, but nurses, they
Oh,
just
yeah.
keep it alive and make you feel like a human. My health just wasn't going to allow that. My fatigue wouldn't allow it. Moved from part-time to full-time. I kept getting sick. I would be fine one minute, the next I'd be in hospital and I'd find out I had pneumonia. This just kept happening.
It was so ongoing. Such a
Yeah,
cycle, wasn't it? Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
always lupus. Lupus is doing this. They moved me off as a therapist to a different drug. They figured that my immune system was so suppressed that it wasn't registering that it was so sick until it was too late. That was the reasoning behind
Yeah.
the pneumonia. This happened over and over, and it started at the age of 17. I spent my 24th birthday in hospital with pneumonia. I was so over it at this point. I was angry. I had a specialist follow-up appointment with respiratory, and just went off at this doctor. This was bullshit. I was sick of this. I couldn't live my life. I was getting sick all the time. You have pneumonia that many times, your lungs start to get really bad.
Mhm.
He had an idea of what it might be. I was diagnosed with common variable immune deficiency. I don't create my own antibodies, which means I cannot fight any bugs. Finally had an answer to why my pneumonia was happening. It wasn't lupus this time.
So that was really the missing puzzle piece, wasn't it? Because lupus had just been thrown around
Mm.
so easily for so long.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to show the unknown that is
Yeah.
lupus. It wasn't, it was 10 or so years ago, but it was still just not knowing what lupus could do. But that's left me with some pretty heavy issues with my lungs now. It just makes things a little bit more complicated. In terms of my lupus and my journey, like it's the highlight reel. Very different to you, Livy.
It's really interesting having had both our conversations now. I feel like a lot of the emotions and the feelings, especially when we were younger, are similar, even though things were quite different.
Mm.
Especially that piece around control, that's really resonated with me. I feel so incredibly thankful that I have this beautiful friend in you. It absolutely breaks my heart for everything you've through. But to have someone who has also been through so much at such a young age, I'm just so forever thankful for you and your friendship. Yeah.
Yeah, as we all say, I absolutely hate that you know what this is like. I really hate it. But I'm so thankful because I wouldn't have someone to talk to about it who truly gets it. It's so hard to truly understand that things that will come out in this podcast will both go, yeah, I felt the same. There's so much that we just keep under wraps because it's easier to pretend these things don't exist because as soon as you face them, it becomes real. And when you're young, being anything but normal, and that normal being whatever version society is trying to tell you, is all you want to be. That's all you want. So when you're trying to quote unquote be normal when your body is not, it's so hard to face the fact that you're not like everyone else. And only in the last 5 years, I've gone, why do I care? No
Yeah.
one's
Yeah.
the same. No
Yeah.
one's
Yeah.
what is normal? I
Yeah.
don't even know what that means. Everyone else is going through different things. It's just ours started cruelly early, and you and I have learned so much about ourselves that so many people never get that gift of having.
And you're right, it is a gift. It is such a gift. It's the qualities and the kindness and the thankfulness for life that I know I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
As hideous as this disease is, I'm so thankful for the person it's made me and the people it's brought into my life.
Something that you also touched on last week was your mum mentioned around how much steroids you had as a child. And the more I've watched as science medicine have come along and seen how they would do things differently now, I still wouldn't change how it has fallen because every decision that our parents made and our doctors made at the time was based on the information that they had right in front of them. There is absolutely no way I would ever blame or be upset with any of that. Our parents made some really tough decisions and they didn't do that lightly. It doesn't matter if things would be done differently now.
It's that core that all those decisions that were made, especially from our parents, were made from such a place of love. I just have so much gratitude. I think you see it differently as you get older,
Mm.
what your parents actually did go through. Yeah.
Yeah, you forget that they went through this too, and
And they
none of that.
continue to,
They
you know?
could, yeah, and they don't have the control that they used to have.
Yeah.
I don't envy it, but I also will never be angry with any decision
No,
that was made.
no, no.
It's really important to say that though I would never be angry with any decision that my parents have made, there has been a period of grief and anger that
Mhm.
I've had. Before I turned 30, I pushed for further testing and they worked out that maybe I don't have cirrhosis. I do have a liver disease. There was a lot of grief when I found that out and a lot of anger because I really skirted over my 20s and how much I struggled, how alone I felt. Through that time, I didn't get to do what everyone got to do in their 20s. I don't condone binge drinking in any way, but it's just what people did. So much of my 20s, I felt like I didn't fit in. Even though I looked well, I was okay if I wasn't getting pneumonia. I felt I had this label of sick. I really, really struggled with my mental health. I know we'll talk about it at a different time. there was a point there where things just got a little bit too hard. When I found out that I didn't have cirrhosis, it just felt like I went through a lot of suffering for no reason. I don't want to make this about drinking. It's not about drinking.
It wasn't, no.
It's about trying to fit in socially. I didn't feel like I fitted in socially. I always felt like I was just invited because I was part of the friend group, not because I was any fun. When I found that out, I was so angry, so upset. I felt completely lied to. It took a long time to work through that grief. I wasn't lied to. My blood results show it all. They're not good when it comes to my liver. They didn't make it up. When I was a kid, I genuinely thought that they might have made this up as some weird experiment. If you told a child this, what their life would look like, which is so insane. And when I found out it, my mind validated that insane thought. I don't blame doctors for any of that. What I get angry about was until I really pushed for that test, the only thing that was looked at were my bloods. Cirrhosis is a deadly condition. To leave that because it hadn't progressed felt a bit unfair, but there's so much complication in lupus. I had to deal with what was in front of them at the time. The biggest issue was my lungs, and everything else came second. So
yeah, really, really interesting. I want to end on asking you another question. That is, what's one thing you wish everyone knew about living with chronic illness?
Yeah, we're hiding so much. Not because we don't want to talk about it or that we're doing it on purpose. It's because a lot of it is so automatic that you don't even think to mention it. Liken it to when you get in the car and you drive to your parents' place. You get there and you go, I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
Did I stop at the red light?
Mm-hmm.
It's what it is, like my head all the time, all the things that my brain is constantly scanning for, constantly thinking about. And that's the stuff that you don't see. That is equally as exhausting.
Yeah, definitely. That's why this podcast feels so important,
Yeah.
is letting down that wall and having these discussions.
If you don't know, you don't know.
I just want to thank you, Harriet, for sharing your story. It's such a story of resilience, strength, and tenacity. You continue to show up day after day, even when things are awfully, awfully hard. I'm so proud of you. I know this has taken a lot to share this.
Thank you for listening. We've both been through hell and back, yet we're still here. Our journeys have been one of strength and determination. It goes to show the type of people that we've become through it all. I hope that by hearing both of our stories and hearing the differences that our chronic illness has taken, how it's always led back to you can do hard things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That's episode 2. Thank you for listening. Next week, we will be talking in detail around some of these topics. We look forward to having you back here.
We can't wait to share this with you. Please feel free to share our Instagram around, share this podcast. We would love this to get to the people that it needs to. We will see you next week.
See you next time.